Oh, you'd think after a few times this would get less awkward, wouldn't you? But no, not even after this many times. It's still really, really awkward talking to the camera. You know what? Give me a second. This is what I'm looking at every time I make these videos. Tripod in the middle, double lighting setup, softbox, huge softbox. And you're telling me that wouldn't be awkward if you were doing it. It's not getting any easier. But anyway, today we're going to be jumping into 4 tips to instantly make you a better filmmaker in 2019. These are 4 tips that I've used throughout my filmmaking journey, and I think they're 4 tips that have made a substantial difference to how I am as a creator. Not just as a filmmaker, but also as a photographer and just creating in general, whether it be anything that I do. These are 4 tips that you can carry into just about anything creatively. But before we get into it, if I'm a new face, my name's Tom. I'm a photographer and filmmaker from Melbourne, Australia, who specialises in adventure and ocean photography. If you haven't seen my work before, check out my Instagram at _Tom Noske. Head over there and give me some love. But for today, we're going to jump straight into it. The first tip we're going to jump into is add motion to your footage. And when I say add motion to your footage, have you ever seen those drone shots that are just the steady panning shots, no real subject, no real foreground, no real background? It's just a moving shot and you can barely notice the movement. You might as well have a still image there. That's what I'm talking about, is using elements in your subject or using elements in your composition to create movement. So I'm going to chuck up a few examples here, but think about having a subject that you're moving towards and keeping that subject still whilst having foreground objects showing you that motion. So that is an easy way to really add motion to your videos and add movement and make the video feel alive rather than just steady panning shots that aren't really doing anything for the video. So there's a few examples of things that you can do here. So the first example is have things in front of your subject. So for example, this rugby shot that I took, I've got players standing either side of the players running out into the pitch, but I've set my focus on the players running through the middle. So they're going to stay still whilst the objects are running. The fact that I'm running, they're running, and there's people moving in front of the frame, so it adds movement and makes it feel alive rather than if I was to just stand there and let them run past. The second option is grab a subject, move towards that subject, but make sure that there's foreground elements that are creating that movement. And the example here is the shot that I got in Kauai, Hawaii. So this shot I've sped up to about 300%, but you can't really tell that that movement has been sped up because I've got my subject in the background staying still and I've got the foreground objects moving past. The third option for this, and this is less likely and more dependent on conditions, but it's my shot that I got from Black Spur from up above. Now this shot is just a simple twist and drop, but the good thing about this shot is you've got that fog moving past the trees to add that feel of movement into my image. Obviously this is something that you can't control every day. You need fog, you need sunlight, you need the perfect conditions, but it's a good example of how you can add movement to a scene. So that's tip number 1, add movement to your footage to make your footage feel alive. Tip number 2, and this is probably the most important of the 4, or maybe we'll call this the second most important of the 4, and that's sound design. Now I'm going to show 2 examples right now. I'm going to show an example of if I had included 0 sound design, which I'll chuck up right now. Then I'm going to show the exact same scene, but if I did include sound design, and that is just here. How much of a difference does it make? Now, it's a simple tip, but it's really hard to wrap your head around at first, because you literally need to recreate the ambient noise that was there in the scene, but do that from scratch. So you want to use sounds to build up that scene. It helps add emotion, it helps add feeling, it helps add oomph to your scenes, and it's something that you really cannot skip out on. So sound design is massive. Now, a quick tip for you guys, it does cost money, unfortunately. My sound design is done from a website called lensdistortions.com. Now, they have great sound packs. I own the Archetype, Anticipation, and Idyllic sound packs. Now, they include, the Idyllic one is mostly scores and sort of emotive tunes, but the Archetype and Anticipation are all ambient sound effects, so they're great for building out a scene. So most of the sounds that you hear in my videos are from lensdistortions.com. So if you've got the money and you want to splash out on some sound effects that are really high quality, head over to lensdistortions.com. They're not sponsoring this video, I just love their product.
Hey, I just want to hammer this point home real quick. I forgot to mention when I was making this video, some of my videos are actually created completely using the sounds and scores from Lens Distortions. So that is just how powerful their sound packs are. They go great together. Some of the scores they have in their Idyllic sound pack are actually good enough to be used by themselves. So it's a really, really good investment if you are a filmmaker wanting to do this personally or professionally. I'm actually going to show you guys real quick. This is a 40-second little snippet from a video I made solely using the Archetype sound pack. It was a video I'm super proud of, so here it is.
The third tip is plan, and plan again. When I say plan, have a plan of attack when you go into making a video. Now, for me, that process might be, waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning with an idea popping into my head, quickly jotting it down in my notes, and then the next morning jumping on the most dangerous writing app. I got that from a filmmaker named Dan Mace, the most dangerous writing app, jumping on there and writing for 15 to 30 minutes, just writing out a script. Now, it doesn't need to include prior to shooting. You can do things whilst you're shooting that can be considered planning, whether it be taking multiple angles of the same shot to edit them nicely together when you come into the edit, or whether it be in the editing room, choosing a nice bookend to bookend either end of your film and planning it that way, or whether it be creating your film in a way that edits the same way that the evening actually went if it's an event. So I shot an event recently where it was a Hall of Fame event. And I came to the edit and I had a whole bunch of the same sort of footage and I didn't really know how to edit it. And it wasn't until I decided, okay, I'll just edit it the exact same way that the night went. So I started with people conversing into the building. I then started with people mingling and then got into the reception and people talking and giving speeches, and then got into the after party and celebrating, a few people drinking, and then got around to footage of the prizes and whatnot. So that was my way of creating a plan when it came to editing, shooting, and on the day. Now, planning is by far one of the most important tips in this list because it can so easily separate you from the rest. And the reason for that is not many people do it. Not many people plan their videos more than a pre-thought before hitting the record button on their camera. So you've got to be that person that when an idea pops into your head, start writing. When you've got a little bit of time, write a script, write a shot list, plan your shots, figure out what emotion you want to tell in your stories. Do something to plan your videos more because it will set you apart so much more from the rest. And the last tip we're going to cover in this video is focus on story. Now, you've probably heard this over and over again, and you probably like to ignore it because you don't know how to include story into a 2 to 3 minute video. And I totally agree. It's hard. Now, it doesn't need to be a 3-part story with a beginning, middle, and end that focuses on a hero and a villain. Maybe it's just a cinematic or editing choice that helps portray an emotion and make your audience feel something. Maybe you decided to write a script and include a voiceover in your video that can go alongside the visuals and make the audience understand what the video is about. Or use your visuals to tell a story through your voiceover. Maybe it can be your way of storytelling. You write essays and then you create visuals that go along with it. It doesn't need to be your traditional story. It just needs to tell something. Whatever you can do to introduce a little bit of story into your videos is going to be paramount in helping you step away from everyone else, because there's not many people that do it. There's not many people that focus solely on story, and it can make such a difference to your videos. A good example of this, I did a job for a rowing team last year in March, and all I was supposed to be doing was documenting their race day. But the night before the event, we had a dinner for the team, and I was invited along, and I was listening to the coach go through why they named the boat the particular name that they did. And the name of that boat was named after a digger from World War I. Was in charge of a group of 6 men that were commanded to go to the front line and hold that position for as long as possible. Now, this was essentially a suicide mission, and the letter that he wrote to these 6 men was given to the boys as a speech from their coach, and I thought that was so touching. So once it got to editing the video, I thought about the footage, and it looked real moody and it looked nice, and it was very tight and it was very tense because it was a rowing regatta. There was a lot of serious faces, there was a lot of emotion. The track that I'd picked was perfect for it, so I decided to record a voiceover, and I recorded a voiceover with the script from that letter that he had written to his men. And it made the video so much better because it added that emotion, and it also added the story, and it made people understand what these boys are racing for, why they've named the boat what they did, and it made the video so much stronger than it could have been if it was just random footage edited together to some nice cinematic music of Head of the River Day. So that is an example of how you can add story to your videos without the 3-part beginning, middle, and end hero-villain story that you probably know too well. So think about how you can add story to your videos. And to recap what we talked about today, the first one is add movement to your footage. The second one is add sound effects to your videos. The third one is plan, and plan again. And the last and final, but definitely not least tip is focus on story when you're creating your videos. I hope this has helped. I hope this inspires you guys to go out and create better videos in 2019. If you've enjoyed any of my videos, if you enjoyed anything that I've put out so far, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, check out all my other videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.